Feeling sluggish, eh? Has it been a big day? Yeah, I've got you now. I think I had a little bit of a disconnect at the start of the stream, so that must have lagged us a bit. Much better. So at least now I know all you have to do is stop and start the stream. So that's not too bad. Lots of technicalities, isn't there, in this sort of thing? Lots of technical things happening. I do run these streams off of a mobile service too, so I guess we should be happy that it's running at all. So how are you doing? You okay? You say you're a little bit sluggish. It's 9 PM. Has it been a big day? $9 AM. Oh wait, it's 9 PM for me. Aha, yes, 9 AM for you. Takes me a little while to get going in the morning too. I need like an hour to wind up, you know? Have a cup of tea, have a cup of coffee usually as well. And a shower. And then usually the fire's starting to go at that point. Yeah, it's one of the first things I feel like I need to get in. I don't always. Depends on the day, but if I'm hoping to have a bit of a productive morning, I need to start off with a shower. It's just recently, like over the last couple of years, I started to turn the hot water off at the end of a shower just for like 10 seconds so that you get a big burst of freezing cold water. Just to give you that little bit of a kick. It's Sunday, isn't it? I'm off all next week. I wouldn't normally stream on a Sunday night or Sunday, but my kids they're in the middle of their school holidays and I have them for the week next week. So I won't be doing any streaming, I don't think, while they're here. So I thought I'll do tonight and I'll do tomorrow, and then I can take a few days off. It's this really tricky thing though when you get into the flow of these, you start to get into the momentum and your routine builds up. There's a part of you that doesn't want to let that go. It wants to keep going with the momentum, you know, as if it's afraid to stop. You know, they're not fun. Cold showers, they're never fun, but they are very energizing. So it's a good way to kind of give you that little bit of a kickstart. And you don't have to go freezing cold either. You can just turn the hot water off a bit so that the water gets a little bit cooler, and you still get a similar effect. I don't usually turn the hot water all the way off, but mostly off, so it's pretty cold. And yeah, it has a good effect. It's very good for waking you up anyway, if you're still kind of asleep. Like those sluggish mornings you talked about. Like I said, yeah, if you're a big, you know, if you really deeply detest the cold water, the idea of a cold shower, just turn the hot water off halfway, you know, so the water starts to go a little bit cold. And you'll find if you sit in that, you'll be able to lower the hot even a little bit more. Your body adapts to it. Have you heard of Wim Hof? The Iceman? Exactly, your body adjusts. Wim Hof is, he baths in ice water often. Every day, I think he does it. He's on record, and this is legit, you can look him up. W-I-M, his first name, Wim, second name Hof, H-O-F. And he climbed part of Mount Everest in his boxer shorts, in his jocks, I don't know what, briefs. Rising from the ashes, hello, welcome. So he's developed this method of breathing and essentially generating heat in the system and being able to withstand cold. It's quite interesting, but it's very extreme. It's a very extreme example. He sits in literal tubs of water with blocks of ice in them for minutes at a time. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. I think his record is 1 hour. Something like that anyway. It's quite interesting anyway, yeah. How are you rising from the ashes? Yes, degrees of immersion. Very much so. If you're tired rising, feel free to just drift away, drift off. It's nice for you to pop in and say hello. But don't feel like you have to hang around, okay? I really like Jim. When I watch him, I see a very genuine desire to improve and grow and go beyond pain, emotional pain. Yeah, I see a very sincere desire to break through. So when we talked the other day, it was interesting, because during the part where we were talking, I wasn't watching anything. I was just sitting a lot of the time with my eyes closed. I had paused his stream, so I was only gauging him based off of his voice and his words, and sometimes it's quite difficult to have those types of conversations on a phone, because as in on a kind of call, because when you give conversation a lot of space, there are times where you might be mid-sentence, kind of mid-thought process, and you sit for a moment. You go into a moment of silence as the thought continues to emerge. And on a phone call, when somebody goes silent, it's quite natural for the other person to start speaking. So I bring that up because I watched it afterwards, and his physiology gave away a lot more as to how he was hearing what I was saying or how he was receiving it. And in the footage, I could see a lot of resistance, and that's normal, especially for somebody who's quite psychologically inclined, somebody who's very much gone down the road of psychology and we'll just kind of round it out with psychological therapies. There's a great belief in the psychological world or the world of psychology, that going into the psychology of yourself is a means to heal and to cure it. And that is true to a degree, but it's never able to fully grasp the reality of truth, the reality of absolute truth, because that's non-conceptual. Your brain can't understand absolute reality. So when you're communicating with somebody who is quite deeply invested in relative reality, so the reality of psychology and the reality of the self and the reality of trauma and the reality of healing that trauma through psychological means, you are essentially, it's like combat in the martial arts world. It's like you're in combat and you're trying to navigate through something that's finding it very difficult to grasp certain concepts and certain elements of the conversation. But that's just the psychology that you're dealing with there, yeah? So behind that psychology is a sincere heart and a being that wants to be free. And so you communicate to that as well. So next time we talk, if it comes about again, I will ask if maybe Jim can put on his camera in Discord while we talk, so that I can see him while we're talking, because it will help me to gauge how he's receiving what I'm saying. Because if you're in a conversation with someone, and the thing with this type of conversation is, I'm not talking for the sake of talking. I'm not just talking about what I want to talk about. So it's a real interaction that's taking place, and the words are being spoken specifically for the person who's listening. So to be able to see that person, and if what you are saying, if you can detect they're struggling with it in some way. Yeah, exactly. The body language. If you can see that there's a little bit of resistance, you can not change what you're saying, but you can kind of poke at why does this specifically, what I'm saying now, why is there resistance around this? Because whatever that resistance is, that's what we need to be looking at, because that thing that's resisting is what gets in the way of your ability to connect with that level of truth. So anyway, that's something that came to me after I watched the conversation again afterwards. But absolutely at the forefront of all of my interactions with Jim, he very much demonstrates a sincere desire to grow and go beyond his pain, which is what, if I'm honest, if anyone that I engage with more meaningfully, that's essential that that's there. At least if you're going to work together, you can communicate with anyone, obviously, and there's no judgment ever, but when it comes to working together on penetrating deeply into truth and peace of mind and awakening, you need to be able to see and detect sincerity in the other person. Otherwise, you just won't be able to break through the resistance. So, yeah, it's something that I pay attention to when I communicate with people. Is there an openness or is it a closedness? Sometimes people want to try to convince you of their views, not realizing that it's actually those views that they're holding on to that's limiting their ability to know peace. And so they'll end up arguing for their views, at which point the conversation is really over. Depending on how firmly they hold to those views, you know. And it does take a long time to break through a lot of these problems anyway, so it's not like you give up straight away. But yeah, there's an element of how open is the person to inquiring. This is all about challenging our own perceptions. It's not about challenging other people's perceptions. We get it a lot. People want to test us, and we are testable. You can come to us with questions and challenges, mental challenges, psychological challenges, spiritual challenges, and that's fine. But to do it to try to prove somebody wrong is different. If somebody comes to me with a kind of challenge, questions, a test, are they doing it to test my sincerity, my truth, my contact with truth? Because then obviously if you pass the test, they open up, then they say, okay, this guy seems to know what he's talking about. But other people don't do that. Some people don't do that. They just challenge you with the hope of proving you wrong so that they can come out on top. And that's the ego, you know, the ego trying to prove to itself that it's right. So it's very subtle though. Sometimes it's hard to detect those things, which is why it helps to see the person. The best form of communication obviously takes place in the same space, face to face. Then the next best is through video and audio at the same time. Then the next best is audio only, and then the least best or the worst form of communication is written, only written language, because it's there's no feeling in writing. It's very hard to get feeling into writing. You tend to have to write really long stories and write very descriptively. It can still be done, but often it's much better, much more efficient to have a face-to-face encounter. So it was a very interesting talk, and it was nice to speak to Jessie as well, Farm Fresh Jessie, because I've watched a few of her streams and had a brief interaction with her, and I've watched her with Jim as well, and I know she's in a similar line of work to Jim. And yeah, it's the the people that are looking to grow and evolve. What did you think of it, CJ? You watched it? You were there, weren't you, at the time? Yes, they're all on YouTube, but the YouTube is releasing one video a day, so it may be like 3 or 4 days time when that... Oh wait, so that chat took place on Jim's channel, and he's got his VODs saved. If you go to Jim the Mental Health Coach, do a search on Twitch for that, and look at his recent videos, and it would be his most recent talk. His most recent video, and it was like the last hour of the conversation. Sorry, the last hour of his stream, we had a talk. It was quite a good talk. It's nice to be able to talk to people about this stuff. It helps keep it alive. That means, it's very easy for us to just get consumed by whatever new things modern society is materializing, which is fine, nothing wrong with that. But if you're looking for something more substantial, more deep and meaningful, you have to look towards this type of content and engage with it. When you say you were resistant to what I was talking about, or were you resistant to the way that the interaction was occurring? And I think it's a fair assessment what you say, with curiosity and then resistance. Some of this stuff's really hard to penetrate. And in fact, you can't penetrate a lot of it until a few years into the conversation, so to speak. You keep coming back to the conversation, and you keep addressing your doubts, and you keep going into your meditation as homework, and it helps you to see more and more. But I looked at the chat after the talk, and there were quite a few people with a bit of resistance and questioning in there, which I'd be happy to talk about if they wanted to talk about it. It's always interesting to me to see what gives rise to the resistance. What specific concept or thought wanting to stay in the void. So while we have a perception that we're an individual, we think our enlightenment comes and goes, our stillness, we think it comes and goes. Anushka, welcome back. So we think our enlightenment comes and goes, we think the void comes and goes, we think the present moment or our connection to the present moment comes and goes. But actually, Obviously, the present moment never leaves, right? Everything is the void. Everything that is present is the void. It's just a matter of perspective. If you're watching the present moment directly, there's no commentary on it, because it's not conceptual. That's void. It means that means it's void. It's void of all beliefs or views or perceptions of self. It's just a happening, you've heard me say that before. It's just a happening. So you can watch the present moment from that space and you don't lose anything. I know part of the conversation that we were engaged in was this idea of escapism, and I was trying to express you don't lose anything. You don't escape anything. In fact, you come into contact with everything. The only thing that disappears is this belief in an individual self-identity. That disappears. If I have the perception that I am an individual, and then so from that perception, lots of other wrong perceptions come up, that I was born, that I will die, that I suffer, that I experience pain, that I am this body, that I have a name, a history. But when you watch perception itself from the void, none of that comes into being. Everything is still here. And you, the real you in there, is directly present and in contact with everything. You're not escaping anything at all. But to the individual, to the perception of individual, that's very difficult to grasp. Because essentially it means that for the individual who's looking at that perception, from their point of view, they will feel like that means I don't exist. But of course I exist because I'm here, So you end up kind of dancing around this difficult perception. You know what they describe it as, right? The moment of transition from this perception of being an individual to essentially witnessing the void in its entirety, where there is no individual anymore and there is only everything that is present. The line between those two spaces, so you're operating in a sense of individualness, and then you're about to transition over into this real perspective where there is no more individual. They talk about it, they describe it as a cliff edge, as if you will feel like you're about to fall off the edge of a cliff within your meditation, and you have to let go, you have to fall. And obviously most people don't, because it's scary. That part of you that tries to understand, that wants to know what's going to happen, that part can't go with you. So you have to let go. And so it's like teetering on the edge of a cliff. And believe me, I know what it's like to sit at the edge of that cliff for years and years and years, trying to fall, not able to. It takes a lot of consciousness and a lot of dedication and a lot of courage to let go at that point. And so obviously when you're having a conversation with people who still haven't quite fallen or are trying to fall but struggling for whatever reason, you have to be patient. You have to be patient. You know why they're holding on. It's because of fear. And but yeah, it doesn't matter. It's not bad. That's just the way it is for a lot of people. Conscious effort, right? We have to apply ourselves in the right way. Apply our attention. In the right way. So what's going on with Anushka? How's Anushka's world? Michaela, welcome back. How are you? Michaela Lemon. It's a good name, that, isn't it? Why don't you know how to answer? There are no wrong answers, obviously. But I'm curious, what makes you say you don't know how to answer? The present is one with the void, CJ, yes. They are the same thing. In reality, everything is void. But through concepts, we give everything meaning, you know? Oh, an ear infection. That's not fun. That's no fun at all, is it? What do? Do you take antibiotics when you have an ear infection? Oh, that's fine, isn't it? Normal is fine. Images can be... Oh, that's no good, Michaela. Do you take painkillers? I know some people don't like to take painkillers. Maintaining contact with the void does conjure up many different types of experiences, some of them very minor, some of them very major. And so, yeah, the conjuring of images, whether they're memories in the body or even deeper memories, memories of the mind, memories of past lives, other lives taking place, strange perceptions, all of those things are part of it. Ah, I see. That's no good. Ear infections can be pretty terrible, can't they? They're up there with toothaches, aren't they? Sometimes even worse. Well, you're lucky. I've never had many earaches, but I've had a few. What was the image you saw, CJ? Do you want to go into it? Or you don't? You don't have to, obviously. Ah, I see. Well, that's good, Anushka. I'm glad to hear that. Oh, that's very interesting. A little bit of a reflection, hey? Yeah, we work through lots of strange perceptions in this type of practice when you meditate, when you meditate deeply. Lots of visions, lots of memories, lots of weird, unusual feelings. So we work through all of them. Well, the idea is to work through all of them. If you ever want to know, if you ever want some good guidance on kind of how to understand what you're doing or what you're experiencing, it can be helpful to read the stories of monks, right? Because people become monks and nuns because they want to understand what they are ultimately. They want to find the highest principle of life. They go seeking God, or they go seeking Buddha, or they go seeking the universe, or they want to find peace. And so they have to learn how to meditate because they have to detach from all of this idea of what I think I am. They have to detach from that. Hello, Gnarly. Welcome. How are you doing, buddy? They become monks and nuns because they want to detach from this suffering self that they have. It's their life has taken a turn and it's gone in a direction they're not happy with, and they want to go deeper. And some of these monks, in their journey of meditation, they've written about it. They've written about their experiences they had in meditation and their experiences of awakening, and the various sticking points, or the traps, or the realizations, or the confusions that they had along the way. And if the monk or the person, realizes the aim and wakes up and realizes what enlightenment is, they tend to teach and explain about the steps along the way and the various things that can happen to you. And so, if you want to gain insight sometimes into, and when I say sometimes, if you want to gain insight into where you're at, sometimes it can be helpful to kind of reflect on the journeys of other monks and mystics and spiritual seekers. You want to make sure they're realized, though. Make sure they are realized, because otherwise, if you read the story of an awakening by somebody who experienced it very recently, there'll be a lot of confusion in there, and they may not have gone very deep into the awakening yet, but they may believe they have. So anyway, you want to go to monks and mystics, because those are the people who, if you need a medical procedure, you go to a surgeon. If you need help and somebody's attacking you, you go to a cop, a police officer. If you want to learn Japanese, you might find a teacher of the Japanese language, So monks and mystics, their job, their career is to go into the nature of this mind, into the nature of reality. And so that's where you want to be looking for your inspiration, really. That was interesting, Gnarly. You took me on I thought we were descending into a kind of not very good place, I'm not in the best place, and then you brought it back up into not such a bad situation. So you're doing okay? You're alright? You're getting on with things? You're still making progress with the projects that you were working on? Interesting, Anushka. Any reason for that? You avoid them on purpose? Or you've never been around them? Ah, I see. Sometimes you have to let go, don't you, Gnarly? You have to relax. Yeah, fair enough. Also fair enough, Anushka. Nothing wrong with that. I'm going to put a different song on for us, alright? Are you asking me that, CJ? And are you asking about the chat that we had the first time that we had a chat? And why do your parents think you're crazy, Michaela? It was a good chat, wasn't it? You were the first person to come over from Jim's stream, and so if I remember rightly, we went into the void a little bit, didn't we? As in the meditation of sitting and being present. And you said you were having like tightness and a bit of, I can't remember exactly what you said, but it was something to do with your chest. It was uncomfortable, wasn't it? You were in a bit of discomfort, and you said that it settled. So it was good. It was nice to see a little bit of a healing happening, Oh, I see. If you get water stuck in your ear, though, that can lead to an infection. How did you find it, CJ? What did you, was it a surprise to you, that experience? Yeah, if you get water stuck in your inner ear or your ear canal or whatever it is, whatever it's called, and you can't get it out, that can lead to like a buildup of pressure, especially if you're trying to get it out. Maybe you're putting your finger in your ear and trying to get it out. Interesting. You know how we talked a little bit about well, you use the term like living in the void all the time. When you come into contact with somebody who basically lives in that space and has cultivated it very deeply, it will have more substance to it. So a lot of therapists learn mindfulness and meditation because they know it has healing and relaxation elements to it, and it can help settle down anxiety and things like this, and just bring more calm and serenity to the mind. But throughout the day, they too will be kind of living in psychology and also engaged with the same types of concerns within themselves. Maybe they try to practice mindfulness a little bit more than a so-called an ordinary person. But when you come into contact with somebody who does it for a lifestyle, who lives in meditation, it's very different, and it's much more powerful, and it's much more hard hitting. So that's why I say, you want to go to the source when it comes to meditation, and when it comes to learning about the nature of the mind or trying to get insight. You're connecting with somebody else, another piece of life which is totally immersed in that space, and so it has a very powerful effect. In yoga, there's a terminology. They use the terminology of a guru, which, this means basically it's a guide. It's somebody that you can connect to, who deeply immerses themselves in that energy. And as you move towards that person and connect with that person, the energy kind of transfers a little bit. So that would explain why it was quite a heavy hitting experience for you in comparison to maybe some of the other stuff you've done. Healthy diet is important, Anushka. Yawning. In a way, yeah, I can see the comparison. I don't know if you've ever been to a monastery, like a meditation monastery. There's an energy to the place. Monks live there, monks and nuns, and maybe there's 10 of them, 15 of them, 20 of them, or more even sometimes, all living in their own little... So they have a hut. It's a small hut, very small hut. Each one of them will have their own little room, basically. But it's built on the property somewhere. It's a separate dwelling away from all the other monks. And actually, the Buddha laid down a rule, which means when they construct these huts, they have to build it in a place where they can't see any of the other monks, so they get this sense of being totally isolated. It could just be over a ridge or behind a group of trees. There might be another hut, but you wouldn't be able to see it, and the monks tend to live very silently, so you wouldn't hear them hardly at all either. And so anyway, you go to one of these places, and these monks have been living there 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, depending on the monk. And there's a real energy to the place. When you walk into one of those properties, your mind is taken over by this energy of calmness and serenity. And that's what it is. It's a cultivation of that energy. And the energy kind of lingers, It feels like it has a substance. If you spend enough time in that space, you too will start to connect with it. The dominant energy of those environments is peace. Whereas in most environments in the world and in the modern world, the dominant energy is business, busyness, and chaos. And so it has that will still have the same effect. If you are immersed in chaos, often you will become more dominated by chaos, Like attracts like. You've heard that before, right? Energies attract, So, yeah, you want to be kind of selective about what you're connecting with, who you're connecting with. This is if you want to cultivate peace anyway, because there's a very real way to do it. There's a very concrete way to cultivate peace. Beautiful. Yeah, well, nature, you're very closely connected to nature in that space, because that's where nature lives. Everything in nature operates in that space, so that's what you connect with. When you become quiet, when you become calm, when you become very observant, you're immersing yourself in the natural energy of nature itself, which is your energy, it's not like it's not yours as well. That's what's in you, very deep down beneath the surface, beneath all of the constant chattering and thoughts and perceptions and views and ideas. So the recipe is really very simple. You learn to cultivate space, and that's it. Space in your environment, space in your thoughts, space in your actions, space in your life. And because that space is full of nature and full of peace and full of energy, that's what you connect with when you cultivate space. Then you just have to set about doing that and learning to maintain it and defend it to your peace of mind. You need to be able to defend it. Defend it from your own ego and defend it from the ego of the collective. Because human beings tend to be quite insane, unfortunately, with their current level of evolution. That's exactly right, Ashes, yeah. Yes. CJ, yes. The collective consciousness of humanity. The collective egoic consciousness of humanity. Just look on the news, And that's only a small part of the picture. Within human beings and within their life is tremendous love. When they've got all of their needs met, people are beautiful. They're fun, they're happy, they're engaged with each other, they're connected. But our way of life as a collective is driving us deeper and deeper into insanity. And so many people get caught up in this cycle of constantly trying to make ends meet, and because of that they go insane, because it's so fraught with lack, fear of loss, control, being controlled, deception, and being led by people, being led by governments, and being led by institutions. And then greed as well is another part of it, Ashes. So because of that, even though we have true goodness in us, it gets dominated and overwhelmed by this anxious and fearful energy. And so we go insane. The human being goes insane. They lose touch with their peace of mind. And that's because the dominant way of life is leading us deeper into that insanity. So that's why when you want to cultivate peace, you have to be able to protect your peace from that energy. And the only way to do that is to know what is the cause of that energy, or rather, what causes a person to deviate into that energy. You have to know that, because if you don't know that, you won't be able to stop yourself from deviating into that energy. So that's how you protect yourself. And it all takes place inside. You don't have to go around attacking other people. Sometimes you have to kind of hold people back and push them away if they're trying to attack you, but you don't have to do anything about anyone else. It all starts with you. You cultivate your own serenity. How do I discover why I fall into the fear? Can you find a place within you right now that is unafraid? It's totally at peace. Why do you leave? Why do you leave that place? Why don't you live there? Because when you leave that place, that's when you fall into fear. But another question that you have to be able to answer is, how do I leave that place? What happens within my consciousness that causes me to lose touch? Do you really forget it? Is it not behind every interaction you have? Is it there right now in this conversation, behind this conversation, behind this interaction? That place has nothing to prove, by the way, and it doesn't care about what I think. Well, that's something you have to learn to manage. That's part of it. There is a way to act, to govern yourself right now in which you don't lose contact, and you can still maintain interactions. You can still do what's needed. You can still do whatever you want to do, but your every action and every thought and everything that happens, you will see through the lens of being immersed in this space and not losing contact. Because when you leave that space, you fall into anxiety and fear. And when you live in that space, you live in love, which obviously is the opposite of fear. But the important question to be able to answer is, how do I leave that space? What do I do within my own consciousness in presence? I'm in the present moment. I'm here with myself in this experience. What am I doing internally that's causing me to deviate into fear and anxiety? Because if you can identify that, you can stop it from happening. It's hard to identify what that is, though. It takes... Aha. There you go. Same for you too, Ashes. So why do you do that, CJ? Do you know why? Why do you feel like you need to see their point of view? Are you afraid of what other people think of you? Are you afraid of being hurt? So, in this place of freedom from fear, there is a total acceptance of oneself, a total acknowledgement of I'm alone. Within my consciousness, I'm self-contained, and I don't want to change that, and I don't need to change that, and I don't need to do anything about that. That's what I am at my deepest core. And in that space, I accept myself totally, and I accept the present moment totally, and I accept whatever's happening totally. I trust this moment right now. In that, I can't control other people. Other people may hurt me. Other people may try to hurt me. And I have to accept that too. I have to accept the pain of being. I don't know whether you're religiously inclined, but two of the more popular stories of awakening, the Buddha and Jesus, well, they put Jesus on a cross and crucified him. The Buddha, there were 3 assassination attempts against the Buddha, and the final one made him so sick that he didn't really recover. Actually, the last one was food poisoning. I think I might have got that a bit wrong, but there were 3 assassination attempts on his life. Okay, so you're Christian. So within this awakening, if somebody like the Buddha or Jesus can't control, can't stop the attack, what chance do you have? What chance do I have? What chance does anyone have of trying to do that? So, we can't stop the pain, we can't stop other people. If somebody else has the intention of hurting us, all we can control is our own response to that situation, how we respond to it. Exactly. I can't control how other people speak to me, what they say to me, what they think about me, what they do or don't do to me, or anything like that. So I've learned, and I must learn, to govern my consciousness in a way, right now, on a daily basis, that lives in that reality. And then I have no fear. Now I live without fear. Because I accept whatever is happening to me right now. I live there too. I live right now in this space as it's happening. And I don't leave it. And I don't engage with the psychology that tries to leave the present moment. And so I don't experience fear of the past, guilt, fear of the future, anxiety. And so I govern myself in that way. And all of the realizations that come within the path of awakening happen there too. So it simply boils down to living in the present moment, but not psychologically. We think we live in the present moment, but do we really? Are we very deeply aware right now of what is happening right now? You have to be looking at it. You have to be looking directly at what's happening right now, otherwise you're not living in the present moment. And I've said this before, the present moment doesn't end. So the second that you take your gaze off of the present moment, you've left it behind. You're now either living in the past or an idea of the future, a memory or an assumption. And a very powerful way to help myself learn to live in the present moment means I will accept whatever's going on. Given the nature of karma, and here's a little tip. Given the nature of karma, and the fact that karma is a reality, if I can govern myself very well in the present moment, my future's taken care of. That's my karma. If I become very present and loving and kind and compassionate and open-hearted and open-minded and, let's just say, a very good kind of human being, you know, Jesus's methods, yeah, his teaching, right? If I live that way now, my future's taken care of, because I am only generating sincere and good karma now. So I don't need to think about the future. I can trust in karma, which is my karma. That's me doing that. So I have a good enough control over myself, you know. I have self-control, good self-control. Which means, yes, I can rest, I can be present, and I can learn to live in the present and stay there, stay connected. So if you dedicate yourself to that objective, you will become conditioned. That means your brain, your psychology, your actions, your thoughts, all of that will become conditioned to stay present. And after a while, usually, I don't know, a couple years, a good year or two of cultivating like this, and you will have a very, very solid foundation in presence. Once you have a very solid foundation in presence, you can start to build on top of that. This is where the law of attraction and manifestation comes into play. What do we want to do with our presence? We are deeply here right now together, and so together we can work on things, sharing this moment in presence together with real consciousness. I see you, I know you're here, and you see me and you hear me too. And do you want to work together? Why wouldn't we? We're part of this together. And we work together in the present moment, and this is how our species evolves. This is where we need to go. Hand in hand, on the same page, the present moment, deeply. We are in this together, you and I. We always have been. Let's do a bit better, right? Let's put down some of this insanity that we've been playing around with up to now as a species. Let's come home together. But that's usually once people get quite well established in the presence and they conquer the fear of being present and the fear of letting go. But that's where you get to. Enlightenment is a shared experience. And this will be hard to understand, but to be able to share enlightenment means you have to be prepared to be deeply, deeply alone. Because it's the aloneness that we share. Try getting your head around that one. Well, I'm glad you're getting something out of it. No, not at all. And welcome, Fantasy Animal Vegan. Welcome back. I feel it, CJ. I feel it. We're all in this together. As we cultivate presence together, our presence evolves and our present evolves. It evolves. So essentially what that means is our consciousness up to now, most of us grow up with the conditioning that we're individual, separate. But as we evolve, as our consciousness evolves, we evolve into union. We evolve into oneness. We've always been one the whole time. But when you don't see it, well, you think you're separate. You don't realize your connection to all of life. You don't witness it. So as we evolve, we come together. We come back to union. I can't quite read that name. Tonya, do I believe in God? What kind of God are you referring to? What definition of God are you talking about? What's your definition of God? No worries, CJ, you do your thing, okay? A higher power afterlife. There is no power separate from your own consciousness. What people call God is in you. It's in everyone, and it's everywhere. With regards to an afterlife, life doesn't stop. There is no after, because it's always happening. It never stops. Life never ends. And welcome, Tonya. Tonya's scope. You could say that, Tonya. That's a fair enough way to say it. You, the real you in there, in that body, the real you in here, you're not physical, so you can't end, you can't stop. The physical part of you will drop. You have to drop that. That's what we perceive as death, right? You have to drop it. You can only have a body for so long. Anything that's material can only be held together for so long, so that has to drop. But the real you in here is not physical. So if you drop the body, your experience continues on into non-physical experiences, but also into other physical experiences. You have an infinite number of bodies to wear. So you could say the soul travels on. That sounds like strong attachment, vegan. It sounds like a kind of egoic attachment within the relationship. A possession. You know, you mention it yourself. Now, there's a few things that can kind of come up from that. I'm sorry to hear that, Tonya. But welcome to the chat. Feel free to hang around if you want to. Well, these experiences are perfect opportunities for us to turn inward into ourself, into our life, to be with it. Welcome. Thank you for following. Death is always very, very good time, believe it or not. Let me finish that. It's a very, very good time to put our own life into perspective. What are we doing? How deep are we going here? How deep are we looking into this situation? Are we running around in just pure faith with no real answers? No real insight? So, when we feel that way, it's a great time, a great opportunity to put our own life into perspective, because we'll die too. We too will die. How much peace do we have with that reality? How much have we reflected on that in our life? Really reflected on it? So, welcome anyway, and you're welcome to hang around, and if you've got questions or things you want to mention, chat away. Otherwise, you sit back and just tune in, relax. So, vegan. What is it about the relationship that causes you to become so possessive? What is it about that circumstance? You say you've lost all faith, Tonya. How come? What happened? I know you say you lost your mum in February. Was it that death that caused you to lose all faith? Or have lots of questions come up for you since her passing? You know you have to let that go, don't you? But you know you have to stop doing that if you want a full relationship. Can you not always be yourself? Can you not just be yourself anyway? Let's say this, for example, right? I'm here with you in this situation now. I'm just being myself. Has nothing to do with you, obviously. So me being myself is self-contained. I don't care what you think of me. And your action, your opinion, is not going to stop me from being myself. And so because I accept that, I don't need to control you at all. I don't need to do anything about you. I don't need to change you. I don't need to influence you. I don't need to control you in any way, because I am prepared to totally be myself. Now, because I am that way, you, in our relationship here, You have permission to be yourself, totally, because at no point am I going to overrule you, or override you, or dominate you, or control you. I give you full permission. And I'm giving you full permission by me being myself totally. And whatever you say, whatever you do is not going to impact me at all. Now, let's just say just give me a second, just figuring out where to go with this. No, it's fine, Tonya. You're not rambling at all. It's okay. Okay, alright. So, vegan. Let's just say I'm being totally myself, right? Let's just say you start to be an arsehole. Well, I'll just leave you to it. That's your business. You go and do that if you want to. It has nothing to do with me. I'm not going to control you. If you're choosing to be that way, that's fine. It has nothing to do with me. Now, I can only do that if I'm untouchable. If I'm being myself because you like me, I'm being myself because you like me. This is the opposite. This is the opposite case, okay? I'm only being myself because you like me. Now I'm on edge. If I just did something and all of a sudden you don't like me, well, now I'm either in turmoil in myself or I've got to try to get you to like me again. And if we're in a close relationship, I'm probably going to go quite hard on trying to sort of manipulate you and convince you that I'm good again. Now you'll like me again, right? So that's not really being myself. That's being myself sometimes. Being myself when you like me. But I have to make sure myself doesn't piss you off, otherwise you're not going to like me anymore, which means I can't really be myself. I'm being a very careful kind of programmed version of myself because I'm trying to impress you. So that's not the same thing. That's not truly being yourself. So what this means is, in a simple way of explaining this, I have to be totally prepared to be myself, and I have to let you go. Even if we're in a relationship. We're together for a while. We're in love, that's great. We have great experiences and I'm being myself and you're being yourself. I have to totally accept that if for some reason, at some point, our selves no longer gel, I have to be prepared to let you go. Because I can't stop being myself. Because I want peace in my life, and I want true confidence, and I want the truest expression of my life, and that means I have to be myself. Totally. So if you're worried about what your partner in their relationship thinks of you, or what they might think of you if you do this or you do that, you're still not really being yourself. What is it about that feels scary? Does it feel unpredictable? like you'll be out of control, like you won't know what's going to happen. Well, that's a very interesting thing to say. So you've learned to control yourself so you don't get in trouble. Do you trust yourself, fantasy animal vegan? Do you trust yourself? Do you know yourself well enough to be able to trust yourself? If I bring you into my home to stay for a weekend, can I trust that you're not going to break anything? You're not going to steal anything? You're not going to take advantage of me or the situation here if I open my heart up to you? Are you trustworthy? Because if you are, you can let that behavior go now. The fear, I mean, and the control. If you let go now and be yourself, if you know that you are mature now, okay, you're 9 years old, dude, you know, maybe you were being a little shit. Maybe you weren't. It's the specifics of the relationship with the father. Depends on what kind of dad, but that's beside the point. What I'm trying to get at is you're older now. If you let go and you allow yourself to just be yourself anyway, you're not going to do anything stupid. You're mature. It's okay to let go of that now. You can trust yourself. You'll be fine. You'll be in control. You're not going to hurt anyone. You're not going to draw all over the walls or throw, the sort of stuff kids do. You're going to tidy up after yourself. You're a respectful adult. You're a mature person. So you can let go of that now. You don't need to control people. You don't even need to control yourself. Relax. Just be yourself. Yourself is wise deep down. If you know how to really deeply be yourself, there's great wisdom, great strength, great confidence, great courage, great ability, great capacity, and great ability to love and to connect and to share. When we're talking about intimate relationships, that's what you bring to the table when you are able to be yourself very deeply. That's what you will bring to the table. Now, it might feel a bit weird at first. It might be a bit awkward because you haven't done it fully and you've got to kind of get used to it. It's like ice skating, skating on an ice rink. You'll slip and slide and wobble all over the place, probably fall on your arse a bit too, but you've got to stick at it. You've got to stay in there. You've got to keep going. After a while, you'll be gliding around on the surface of the ice like a bloody angel. Then you'll be able to take some girl's hand or some guy's hand and skate together. Exactly. So we practice being free of that desire to control, but you've got to learn to identify it when it's happening, right? If it's conditioned, and it sounds like it is from your childhood, you've learned that behavior from your relationship with your dad, and it's possibly repeated and reconditioned itself in many other circumstances in your life, and it's probably become quite a strong program. So just like any hard rock or object that you need to get through or break through, you just got to keep picking away at it. Go into that environment, into the relationship. Talk to your partner too, whoever your partner is. Talk to them. Okay, because of the way I am and the way I was raised, I tend to be a little bit controlling, My ego, I can be a bit dominant and controlling, like overly dominant, and I'm working on that, and I'm practicing awareness and mindfulness, and you can help me with that, because if you start to see that I'm being kind of overly dominant and controlling, you can help me be aware of it, and I'll do my best to be open. Well, any kind of relationship you want to be real, it's got to be based on truth, man, hasn't it? I shouldn't say man, but it's got to be based on truth, hasn't it? Otherwise, it's not real. It's just a game. And you can't be yourself unless you're diving into the truth. That's the whole point. Truth is sincerity. So to be yourself means you have to be sincere, which means you have to be truthful, which means you have to be honest. Of course you do, yeah. In a real relationship, the right person for you will respond to your honesty with the same total honesty and sincerity. Now you're in love. Now you're actually in the energy of love. So you don't have to hide. You don't have to control it. You don't have to be anything else other than just what you are. That's the real deal. If it's not that, it's just a temporary game, and it's probably more a lust. It's more a bit of a desire. Or you're just kind of playing with each other and having a bit of fun, which, okay, there's nothing wrong with that too, but if you want the real deal, the deep love in a relationship, which is the one, getting back to your original question, does the relationship, an intimate relationship, get in the way of awakening or enlightenment? I think it was. If you want the kind of relationship that doesn't get in the way of awakening, in fact, it will serve your awakening. Not only will it not get in the way, it will help you to awaken to yourself. It's got to be this, what we're talking about here, truthful, honest, real, unafraid, uncontrolling. Otherwise, yeah, it will, if you're hiding, then of course it will get in the way. You're welcome. Good luck. Let me know how you get on. Are you in a relationship at the moment, or you said you're avoiding one? Are you avoiding being in a relationship for this reason? You're not in one right now. Well, like I say, if you end up looking to get in a relationship, here's how I have to frame this. If I want to have a relationship now, I have to know in myself that the right relationship will be total acceptance of me, right? However I am and whatever I am here. This is what I'm doing right now. I can give you this perfect example. If I want this Twitch thing to be real and sustainable, it's a relationship. I'm having a relationship with you and all these other people coming into the chat, and I'm having a relationship with this Twitch setup here, I have to be able to sustain it, which means I have to be able to be totally honest with it. This is what I am. This is what I'm experiencing. I'm in this place, and if I'm in this place and I'm having these experiences, I have to be able to share that with you, because that's really what I'm experiencing. And so what it will do is, and I'm sure you can kind of detect it too, when I'm here being totally open and honest and transparent in myself, it kind of resonates very deeply with you as a viewer, right? Now, people will come into this chat at some point and they won't like what I'm saying, and they won't like how I look, or they won't like that the stream quality isn't 4K, 888K, But that's got nothing to do with me. I'm not going to freak out and try to make those people like me and control them, because if I do that, I'm actually denying myself. I'm just here being myself. You, as my partner in this relationship, you can come and go. If you like me, that's great. We can get on. We can have a chat. We can make out. But if you don't like me, that's fine. There'll be somebody else out there for you. There'll be another streamer for you to watch, and that's fine. And so entering into a relationship, an intimate relationship, you have to approach it the same way. Don't try and get everyone to like you. Don't try and have a relationship with everyone that comes into your sphere of opportunity. Just be yourself, and the right one will totally resonate with you being yourself. And now you don't have to hide anymore. Like I said, now you're in love, but walk in the door with that. Walk in the door with that mindset, right? And now you've got nothing to worry about. If they like you, they like you, and if not, then all right, it might sting a little bit, but you'll grow. You'll get it. You'll get tougher skin, thicker skin. The more you come back to being totally confident and calm and happy and content with you, you'll be that way anyway. The less these words they say, or the things they say, or the things they do, the less it will touch you anyway. But you got to walk in with that. Start there. All right, my friend. Oh, and good luck. Keep me updated on how you get on. I'm doing some relationship counseling at the moment in my, not online, this is more in my real physical environment, so there's a lot to it. There's a lot to conscious relationships and getting people on the same page. If some person's up here, they need to be pulled, the partners. It's so easy to go off track in so many ways, but there's ways to bring it back too, to bring it back onto this, so everyone's looking on the same level, seeing the same reality unfolding. And so yeah, you can dive into it, man. We call it having a conscious relationship. You're having a relationship and you're knowing yourself in that relationship, and you're knowing the nature of a relationship. Sirius, welcome back. How you doing? It's going real good. We've been having some good conversation tonight. Conversations are getting real good over the last few nights. What's happening in Sirius's world? We've still got a few people here watching. It's quite easy to lose track of that. You start talking to one person. No deep talks for now. That's fair enough. Yeah, you're welcome to just hang out, do whatever you want to do. Do your thing. We got a little bit of different music tonight. I downloaded some different songs. Fellow, I've never heard of that. Oh, I see. Yeah, okay. That's that was you, Gnarly. I didn't read the chat right. Yeah, you were telling me about that before. So you chew on them, right? You spit them out later. Interesting. I think if you're talking about being a mod, Gnarly, I think I modded you a long time ago, didn't I? You were one of the first. You were one of the first people to watch the channel a while back. I think I might have modded you then. I'm not sure though. I don't even know if you're talking about what I'm talking about. Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, it didn't come up on anything on my screen. Does it normally tell you that sort of thing? Oh, you don't chew it. Well, Sirius, I'm afraid you've joined us right at the end of the stream. I'll tell you what I'll do, right? Because it's 11 PM here. I've been going for a couple hours. I'll leave the stream on for another 5 minutes with this music. Alright? So we're winding up, winding down. But thank you to everyone for checking in. Thank you for hanging out. It's been real good again. It's been nice talking to everyone. And I hope you guys are enjoying this and getting something out of it. It's nice to make those connections. Yeah, there's links below to the Discord, to the YouTube channel. A lot of these talks are being uploaded to YouTube, and they're actually live on YouTube as well as Twitch, so all of the live streams are on there. And then I'm doing a little bit of editing if there's certain points that are quite sort of specific about certain problems. Those are getting uploaded as separate little clips as well. So yeah, check in with the Discord, check in with the YouTube. We're also over on Rumble. We're not live streaming on Rumble yet, but a lot of clips are being put out on Rumble. And Twitter, everything's under Master's Journey, that's the name. So yeah, feel free to connect up if you want to connect up a bit more in the background. Otherwise, I'll be back same time tomorrow night for one more stream, and then I'm taking about 5 or 6 days off because my kids are here for the holiday period, the school holidays, for a week. So I'll spend some time with them. If I get the chance, I may jump in one night when they're in bed, but we'll see how we go. Alright, so what I'll do is I'll leave the stream going for another 5 minutes or so with a bit of music, just in case you guys are hanging out and having a bit of a chat. Alright. Thanks guys. See you in the next one, okay? Goodbye for now.